What's up and welcome back. Happy Father's Day to everybody, all the guys out there that are taking care of your kids, that are super involved. Everybody that I know, in all honesty, I don't know a bad father, or at least I don't know. I'm not friends with any fathers that aren't around their kids or don't do what they can. So shout out to everybody, all my family and friends. From my brother to my dad, my best friends, my cousins, everybody. You guys know who you are. Shout out to you guys. You guys are awesome fathers. As you see, I got the best dad ever mug. I just got that today. It's actually Sunday night. It's still Father's Day here that I'm recording. You'll get this tomorrow on Monday morning. I didn't want to miss it. So I got this cool mug, and I got a really cool heart-shaped Father's Day card. My son is hilarious. He was like, I'm going to give it to you, but you're not going to like it. I was like, why am I not going to like it? I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it, pal. And he gives it to him, and he's like, look, I messed up. And you can see where he like drew pictures of me and him, and I guess he didn't like it, so there's like X's through there, and then there's little hearts that he drew that I guess he didn't think were good, so he X'd out a couple of them, so there's like X's over a bunch of stuff. And he's like, you're not going to like it. Look at all the mistakes I made. And I was like, son, I love it, which I really did, little things like that. Who goes all out for Father's Day, right? Like, I think it's just one of those things, and trust me, we don't need it. I can't speak for all dads, but, like, I never need some big parade or gifts or anything like that. Like, all I need is to just kick it with my son, which we did today. We saw, like, 3 movies together. I made some burgers and some hot dogs for us. We saw The Incredibles 1 and 2, and then we saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He's seen Guardians of the Galaxy. He's never seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2. He's starting to get to that age now where, like, not everything has to be animated, which I'm super stoked about. I mean, going through 5 years of, like, everything I watched with him was animated was tough. So I'm glad he's able to start watching some of those things. So Guardians of the Galaxy, like the Avengers, stuff like that, he's starting to get into. So that's really cool. But moving on from Father's Day, like I said, happy Father's Day to all the guys out there. But I want to get into I can't recall a card this badass. I'm talking about UFC Fight Night Austin here in my, well, I was going to say hometown. The town that I'm in, my hometown's El Paso. But the fight night was unbelievable, man. Knockout after knockout, crazy performance. It wasn't even just the fact that they were all finishes. There were so many insane type of knockouts. We had spinning elbows. I mean, just guys getting dropped multiple times, coming back, landing shots, but they're getting dropped again. It was wild. It was spectacular. And I guess we should start, if I'm going to start anywhere, I guess I would start at the main, I would say the people's main event, right? We're going to get into the main event. We're going to get into all that stuff. So I guess I could start at the bottom of the main card, which was the people's main event, in my opinion. Tony Kelley, Adrian Yanez. My issue with Tony Kelley, let me backtrack, actually. Let me catch you guys up. I'm sure some of you watching know the history of Adrian Yanez, Tony Kelley, what's been going on, but let me catch you guys up in case you're somebody who isn't so diehard about UFC. You might watch this because of NFL or NBA talks, or even if you are, someone that's a fan of MMA, you may be a pay-per-view only type of person. You might be that person that's like, when Conor and Izzy fight, I'll watch, but other than that, I don't really watch the free fight nights. I definitely don't watch anything besides the main event on the main card, and I get it. But if I can offer you some insight, if I can offer you some pure entertainment, let me get into the backstory of this fight and why there was so much bad blood in this fight. Tony Kelley is dating Andrea Lee. Now, Andrea Lee, I don't want to harp too much on. I guess a lot of people will say that she's guilty by association, which is it's a tough thing to be guilty by association. But backstory on Andrea Lee, I think, gives a little bit, it might tell the full story of Tony Kelley. So Andrea Lee, she kind of became MMA's UFC sweetheart because she was in a really tough relationship with somebody who was like a white supremacist, bad dude. Like, he beat her up. He was a bad guy in this long relationship with him. And then she got out. She ends up meeting Tony Kelley, love of her life, seems to be a good guy. It's like, oh, great. She got out of that terrible relationship. She's with somebody else and she's doing better. She's getting wins together. He's in her corner. He's training her. He's coaching her up. all that good stuff. Now, I say that to say what happens with Tony Kelley. So, Andrea Lee is in a fight, and she's fighting a female who happens to be Brazilian. Well, in the middle of the fight, the UFC usually mics up the coaches, right? It has the cornermen with a microphone so you can hear the insight that they're giving them, which, again, not abnormal. Boxing does this everywhere. Any combat sports, you get some insight on the corner. Well, he goes on to say that she was cheating with an eye poke. The Brazilian girl, that she was cheating with an eye poke. We know what they do. We know how these dirty Brazilians are. They're going to try to cheat. Not great. Not great. Because of that, you can obviously imagine that there'd be some upset people, especially other fellow Brazilians on the roster were very upset with Tony Kelley. He caught a lot of backlash. And here is where my issue stands with Tony Kelley. You messed up. You made a mistake. Do I know that Tony Kelley is racist or has some type of hatred towards Brazilians? No, I don't know. And nobody really does. But this is my issue with Tony Kelley. What I would do in that situation, and I'm not perfect, would come out and say, my bad. I made a mistake. That is not what I meant in any way. I apologize if I sure I have offended people, and I want to apologize for that. I never meant to hurt anybody. I never meant to offend people. I do not feel that way about Brazil. I do not feel that way about Brazilians at all. That's my fault. I own up to it. I want to move past this. It sucks. I don't want people thinking that this is the type of person I am, because I'm not. Something around those lines. I just came up with that now. I'm sure he has a manager. I'm sure if he had his manager put something together for him, it would sound a lot better than I just sounded. That's not what Tony Kelley did. What Tony Kelley did was say, all this clickbait shit, all the stuff you guys try to push, all this racist bullshit is nonsense, blah, blah, blah. He went on the defense. You have to take accountability when you make a mistake, man. There's no way that you can listen back to that and not assume that people would feel some type of way about it. Of course they would. Now, if you didn't mean it, then just say that's not what I meant at all. But to just be defensive about it, go on the attack about it, what are you going to expect? How do you expect fans to not turn on you? How do you expect fans to now not root against you in this situation? They're going to root against you. They're going to, okay, this guy obviously is not apologetic about it. This guy obviously doesn't care. This guy's, to be that defensive about it so quickly instead of offering a sincere apology for it, I think that's what rubbed me the wrong way. And I think it's what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Now, there's some people, of course, that are just like, he's a racist. He's just, some Nazi tape type of guy. And the reason I brought that up is because Andrea Lee is now this girl that's stuck in the middle of this. We don't know what Andrea Lee feels. We don't know what she thinks. But when you're guilty by association with a guy who you yourself admitted his alliance with, this horrible group and his crazy beliefs and his hatred, and now you're dating somebody who has this crazy thing that he said in your corner, it's like, maybe she's attracting guys that have a similar mindset to her. I don't know. I don't know her. I've never heard Andrea Lee say anything that comes off as racist or any type of bigotry from Andrea Lee. So it's not fair to say that. I'm just telling you the full story of Tony Kelley and Andrea Lee's relationship and how some people are feeling about that situation and why they're kind of jumping to conclusion about Tony Kelley and how he truly feels about certain people. Now, that leads to his opponent, Adrian Yanez. Obviously adds fuel to the fire. I don't blame Adrian Yanez at all. When you're about to fight somebody, any little thing that's going to help with motivation, you're always looking for extra motivation. This probably added that motivation that Adrian Yanez wanted. He starts kind of chirping on Twitter. Brazilians are all backing him. Gilbert Burns, the person, we know him. He was formerly ranked number 2 at the 170-pound division. He fought Khamzat Chimaev. He's a beast. He offers to pay Adrian Yanez, hey, I got money for you if you knock this dude out. So it adds more fuel to the fire. Adrian Yanez starts chirping. Tony Kelley starts chirping. Now we got ourselves a little bit of a beef going into a fight that should have been very beefless, right? It should have been an impossible burger, if you will. There should not have been any beef in this fight, but because of that situation, now we got a lot of beef. Now we got a damn steakhouse of a match coming up with Tony Kelley and Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez is talking, to top it off, the other reason when you add why So many people, including myself, check my Twitter. I am clowning on Tony Kelley. I'm not holding back anything, and this is why. You go into the fight night. Okay, you're painted as the bad guy. You're going to take on the role of the bad guy. All right, cool. We've seen people do that in the past, and it's worked for people. Whatever. Colby Covington, one of them. Colby Covington, Tony Kelley, completely different people. Colby Covington talks a lot of stuff. He might go overboard. He might say some things that are crossing the line, but he does it to a specific person. He makes sure he doesn't cross the line of, well, I'm lying. Colby Covington did say similar things about Brazilians as well. But at least Colby Covington is professional in the octagon, and Colby has always been it's been well known that everything Colby does is an act. It's all a persona. It's all something that Colby Covington's just putting together, that he doesn't really feel the way he feels, and some of the angles he uses aren't true to his beliefs. He's just using them as angles. Does that make it better or worse? I don't know. The thing that rubs me the wrong way is now Tony Kelley goes in to weigh-ins and misses weight by a lot. I mean, he didn't miss weight at half a pound. You know, you can come in, I believe they're at 135, so you can come in up to 136. Tony Kelley weighed in at like 137 and a half, somewhere around there. So he wasn't close to making weight. He misses weight, gives up a percentage, gives up 20% of his purse now to Adrian Yanez. So if he wins, Adrian even gets more money. If he loses, obviously Adrian Yanez gets his win bonus, but then a percentage of Tony Kelley's earnings as well. That's the punishment for missing weight. Now, with that being said, a lot of people, including myself, were really hoping Adrian Yanez got the job done, and boy, did he. I mean, Adrian Yanez, not to talk too much about Tony Kelley and all the negative things about Tony Kelley's behavior, but even going into the fight, Tony Kelley is flipping everybody off, flipping off the arena, flipping off all the fans. He was just talking to Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez said when the fight started that he was still talking to him. One thing I will give Tony Kelley some credit for, he called Adrian Yanez the Wish version of Jorge Masvidal. I don't know how I didn't see it before, but when I was just staring at Adrian Yanez, like when Adrian Yanez said that he called him that, and I was looking at him, I was like, oh shit, he does kind of look like the Wish version of Jorge Masvidal. Like, that actually is kind of true. So give him credit, that was actually kind of funny, but pissed Yanez off even more. And let's take a look at the fight itself here. 144 left in the first round. Already starting to rock him, puts the hands on him. He wobbled him a couple times before this, and then here Tony Kelley's already starting to get pieced up. You see the cut under his eye. Body shots from Adrian Yanez are always there, man. The way he works the body, it's beautiful. His boxing is crisp, it's clean, and every time Tony Kelley threw a leg kick, he paid for it. Here, boom, 3 shots, gets some wobble. Tony Kelley's trying to reach for anything, goes down. 3 more shots, hit behind him, hit him on the side of the head, and then obviously the middle fingers up. As you can see, a lot of animosity from these two guys, even after the fact. Adrian Yanez is like, yeah, I don't like that guy. I just don't think he's a good guy. I don't like him. You know, I didn't really care afterwards. He even said after the fight that Tony Kelley was trying to tell him, like, I was good. I came to fight. Like, I guess insinuating that it was an early stoppage, which you just saw nothing early about that stoppage. Like, boy got beat up. He got beat up from start to finish. Yanez did have a cut that came from a clash of heads as they entered, as they came into a clinch. They clashed heads a little bit. Yanez got a cut, but Yanez controlled that fight. Every time Tony Kelley would throw leg kicks, Yanez was countering beautifully on those. But yeah, so that, you know, just another one of those fights that everybody was going. I mean, even the freaking crowd was in there. Like, as the fight was happening, at first it was like, let's go Yanez, let's go Yanez. You know what I mean? What you would expect. And then all of a sudden, as soon as Yanez started catching him a little bit, Tony Kelley started talking. You saw Tony Kelley doing some little hand motions. He started chirping at him a little bit. Crowd flips. Instead of let's go Yanez, crowd starts chanting, fuck you, Kelley, fuck you, Kelley. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, this guy. So moving forward, even after the fight, he takes the Instagram, Tony Kelley takes the Instagram and is just like, it's still fuck you, it's still fuck everybody, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I get, like, this is what I don't understand. You are, in a way, you are what you're perceived to be. I understand some people have the wrong perception, and sometimes you don't care to fix that perception. I get that. That's happened to me before. I'm sure that's happened to you before, where you've been in a situation where you're like, hey, everybody knows my character. Everybody knows who I am. For some reason, you think otherwise. And I don't care enough to try to fix that. I don't care enough to try to show you who I am. If this is who you perceive me as, if this is what you have me, if this is the person that you think I am, it is what it is. I don't care enough to try to fix it. I've been there when it's one individual who, whatever reason, just paints you as something that you're not, or has some weird inclination of who you are or what your character is when it's not true, and you don't care enough to alter that, right? You don't care enough to show them that image of you is false. You don't care enough. And I get that. But when it's an entire fan base, when it's fighters, your peers across the board, your bosses, you don't know how they feel about you, the fans, people who used to root for you, the media, everything around you, and you don't care at all, you got some issues. You got some things you got to work on. You have to, just as a human being, who cares about who you are as a fighter? Because the truth of the matter is, same thing as I mentioned with Colby Covington, right? You can hate Colby all you want. You can hate him as much as you want, but when he shows up on fight day, he shows up on weight, and guess what? He's better than damn near everybody else in that weight class. Anybody not named Kamaru Usman, he's probably going to be a favorite against. So you can say all you want, but the truth is that inside of that octagon don't care. That octagon does not care about your moral compass. That octagon does not care. Octagon, ring, whatever it is in combat sports, in sports in general, does not care about who you are as a person, your beliefs, how you treat people, doesn't care. The only thing that octagon, that ring, that court, that field, the only thing it cares about is who's better. And unfortunately for Tony Kelley, with all the negativity surrounding him and the shots that he's taken in his image, also a no contest. Adrian Yanez is just better. Adrian Yanez beats him 10 out of 10 times. So that's a tough pill to swallow. And I understand that it's a tough pill to swallow. But when you truly don't care about how the rest of the world is viewing you, trust me, I know Andrea Lee still loves him. She probably doesn't think of him a certain way. His parents, his family, we understand that. They might not feel certain ways about him that the rest of the people do. But you don't care about this entire thing surrounding you, the place that you work, the peers, the fans, the media, everything around you. You truly do not care. That's wild to me. Especially when it's something that you could easily clear up. He could have easily cleared this up. Would there have been people that still call him a bigot, that still have these negative, thoughts about him as a person? Sure, absolutely. And you can't do anything for those people. You can't do anything for people that you say, hey, I apologize sincerely. I don't know how many more times I can apologize. I've admitted my wrongs. I've said I fucked up. It is what it is. You still don't believe me. There's nothing I can do. Those people, hey, they're going to feel that way about you. Truth is, they probably wanted to feel that way about you. But when you're so unapologetic about it, and instead of apologizing, you start giving the middle finger, figuratively and literally, what do you think is going to happen, Tony Kelley? What do you think is going to happen? But it is what it is. He'll be back. I'm sure he's not going to have many people cheering him on in his next fight either. Maybe that at least, hopefully, it motivates him to make sure he's on weight. That can't happen again. I mean, the UFC won't even deal with that. If he misses weight again his next fight, I promise you, win or lose, he's probably going to be done. Especially when people feel a certain way about you. I don't know how the people up top of the UFC feel, but it is what it is. Keep it moving. Don't want to do the entire podcast on that one fight. Very next fight, fucking nuts. Julian Marquez, Gregory Rodriguez. Yes, it's Rodriguez, damn it. They had a great fight. Well, kind of one-sided. Julian Marquez actually did have a point where it seemed like it was gonna be a turn of a tide, but Gregory Rodriguez I think he knocked him down 3 times before he finally put him out. It was freaking wild. Gregory Rodriguez is a guy who's known well for his jiu-jitsu, has a jiu-jitsu background, very good on the ground. He actually got to Julian Marquez's back at one point, which I give Marquez that credit. When Gregory was on his back, he found a way to get him off. He found a way not to go down to the mat. and, was able to stay up on his feet. But I was surprised in just the striking ability of Rodriguez, like on point bombs, just bomb after bomb, had him doing the chicken dance multiple times throughout the first round. First round finish to get dropped 4 times. The last one was the last one, but to get dropped 4 times in the first round, like, dude was beating the dog crap out of him. Next fight on the card, Damir Ismagulov against Guram Kutateladze. Yeah, I know. Damir and Guram, it was a great fight. Damir ended up winning by split decision. Very, very technical fight. A lot of people felt like it should have went Guram's way, which we have a constant. I mean, it seems like this happens every fight card in Texas, whether it's in Houston, whether it's in Austin. We feel like it is known, hey, when you're in Texas, you can't leave it up to the judges. Now, I'm not saying Damir was granted this. I'm not saying Guram was robbed of this fight. It was close. Really, really close fight. I haven't actually gone back and watched the whole thing. I like to go back and watch them with no audio and just watch it. No crowd reactions, no commentator input, because a lot of times the guys painting the narrative for you, which are the commentators, right? The play-by-play guys, DC, and in this case, I believe Dominic Cruz. When it's Joe Rogan, Paul Felder, whoever it is, Michael Bisping, their job is to kind of paint a narrative. They're kind of supposed to paint you an audio to the visual, right? They're supposed to try to give you the insights of what's happening and how things are really happening in there. And sometimes when their commentary can be so one-sided and so, almost painting this picture of how I felt like it happened. The most recent was Valentina, the Valentina and Santos fight, the one that we had this last pay-per-view. I felt like it happened in that card. I think what happened was we had Valentina, who was such a huge favorite in that fight, that the fact that Santos was just giving her some trouble made them swing all of the narrative to how good Santos is, how much trouble Valentina's in, how we've never seen Valentina in trouble like this. We've never seen anybody control her on the floor like this. We've never seen anybody. And I'm like, yes, these things are all true. They're not wrong by saying it, but does that mean she's winning the fight? That's the problem when you watch and you listen to the commentary behind it, is sometimes you could just be so surprised by how well one fighter's doing that now it sounds like that fighter's winning, when in Santos' case, it's like, yeah, she did a good job controlling her. She definitely pushed Valentina harder than Valentina's been pushed in a very long time. But was there any damage? Was Valentina ever really in trouble? Did anything really happen? And then obviously the unfortunate clash of heads changed that fight entirely, and then Valentina kind of took over. But even when Valentina took over, it was still like, well, did Santos do enough? Did Santos do enough? Instead of the commentary being, well, Valentina's really taken over. You understand what I'm saying? Like, the 4th and 5th round, Valentina won, clearly, right? The commentary in those rounds were, is this a 3-0? If this was 3-0 so far, even these next 2 rounds, Valentina may need to finish. She might need a finish in there. We don't know how the judges are doing it, so she might need to finish this fight in order to win. So now, if you're a fan that's hearing all of this, you can be persuaded into thinking, oh, if Valentina doesn't get to finish, then that means she's lost. When in actuality, imagine if instead they were going, this is why Valentina is the champion, because it's very well that Valentina banked 1 or 2 of those close rounds, and now she is definitely putting it on. And what the judges are seeing now is a 4th and 5th round, those championship rounds, Valentina starting to pour it on. They're seeing the physical damage. They don't know where it was from. They're just seeing her wear damage. Now they're seeing Santos on her back foot. They're seeing Valentina push forward, and this is why she's the champion. She might win this fight just based off of these last 2 rounds. We don't know if one of those first 3, it could be very well that Valentina got one of those first 3, and these 2 are going to bank the win for her. That commentary can be for the exact same stuff that happened, but it swings you to think one way or the other, persuades you into how you're judging the fight as a fan. And a lot of times that happens. In this situation, I felt like that was happening a little bit as well, where people were really big on Guram, the way he was fighting. He was the underdog coming into the fight, but I felt Guram had a phenomenal fight. They won by split decision. Obviously, one judge having Guram winning, 2 judges had Damir winning. I have to go back and watch. I honestly can't tell you guys right now who I thought won. We'll get to the main event because that one I did have the luxury of going back and watching. But it's hard for me to say because I watched it the first time that Guram got robbed. I would have to go back and watch it again. Off of the first watch, I did think Guram might have edged it, but I have to go back and watch it again before I can really say. Next fight, third to last fight on the card, Joaquin Buckley, Albert Duraev. This was another fight where it was a lot of talking back and forth. They used to train together. Joaquin Buckley is a guy that I never really cared about. Not to say I didn't care about him. That sounds kind of like a dick. Like, I don't care about this guy at all. But I was never, his knockout of Impa Kasanganay is going to live forever. If you haven't seen it, go ahead. I might actually add it right here for you guys. I'm sure it's super easy to find. But his knockout of Impa was, like I said, it's going to live forever. It was one of the best knockouts you'll ever see. It's this spinning back kick, whatever you want to call it, whatever the technical term for it is. Unbelievable knockout. Blows his name up. Phenomenal power behind this guy's kicks. Phenomenal power in his hands. His cardio's always seemed to be a little bit of an issue. And then just, he's had some issues. The next guy on the card, Kevin Holland, did knock him out. But then after that big knockout that he had, right, that spinning back kick, whatever it was, the other thing he was most recently recognized for was his little run-in with Khamzat Chimaev and Darren Till. Khamzat Chimaev was about to fight Gilbert Burns. Joaquin Buckley saw his opportunity to go up to Darren Till and basically offer a fight for him, say, hey, let's do this in this date. Darren Till's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, cool. And Khamzat doesn't like that. Khamzat's like, who is this guy? Darren Till's laughing. They're kind of joking about him. Darren Till's like, I have no idea who that is. And Khamzat's like, who is that guy? He's like, I don't know. They're both laughing. Khamzat calls him out. Let's fight right now. They start getting into it. Well, not getting into it. Khamzat's kind of talking. Joaquin, I don't think, really said much. He just kind of left. But that's the other thing he was recognized for. One thing I believe to be true. One thing that I would bet money on at that moment. Khamzat really had no idea who Joaquin Buckley is. Joaquin Buckley, in pre-fight interviews, when they were asking him about that, said, he knows who I am. Khamzat knows damn well who I am. I don't think he does. Maybe now because he had that run-in with you. Maybe now he's a little interested and maybe he watched your fight. And maybe now he's familiar with who you are. But at that point in time, I really don't think he knew who you were. I really do not. Khamzat does not strike me as somebody who looks up and down all of the rock. And I'll remind you, this fight, I think he was talking about, Joaquin Buckley was talking about fighting at 185. Khamzat's talking about fighting at 170, or he was fighting at 170. I remember Joaquin Buckley telling Darren Till, he's fighting at 170, so I can't worry about him. Me and you, let's do it. I think implying like at 185, let's do it, where he's fighting at 170, something around that nature. Now, like I said, Khamzat does not strike me as somebody who looks up and down the rosters at 170, 185 and goes, I want to know everything about everybody, and I want to watch all their tapes and find out. Really do not think he knew who Joaquin Buckley. And even if Khamzat said right now, I promise you I do not know who this guy is, I would still believe him. Like, I don't think, why would you? You're fighting Gilbert Burns. Why are you going to know anything about Joaquin Buckley? To be honest, to be fair. With that being said, Joaquin Buckley is winning me over. All right, he talks a lot, for sure. He talks a lot, but it is what it is. He believes in himself. He doesn't say anything bad, He's just very talkative, and he believes in himself. And he called Kevin Holland, he said some things about Kevin Holland, which is like, Kevin Holland knocked him out, but hey, I love it. The fact that he went up to Darren Till. Yeah, it seemed funny. Yeah, it's something that we can laugh about, and it's another little highlight bit that you could put for the Smesh brothers and Darren Till and Khamzat Chimaev, and yeah, it's the jokes and stuff. But Joaquin Buckley does what you're supposed to do in that situation, right? Closed mouths don't get fed. Go out, call out Darren Till to his face with a camera. You know what's going to be shown, and now people are talking about it. Now you're being asked about it. Now Khamzat's being asked about it. It made sense. Darren Till's being asked about it. Like, he did what he's supposed to do in that situation, so nothing against Joaquin Buckley at all. And his performance against Albert, like I said, former training mates, the thing that got them really talking was Albert Duraev said that they used to train together, and that's what gave him extra motivation to take this fight, because the training was easy. Those rounds that they had sparring were easy for him. He felt like this was an easy fight. Joaquin Buckley obviously taking exception to that, and Joaquin Buckley was beating Buddy's ass from the start of the fight. Albert Duraev started shooting for his life. Cue the Conor McGregor. He'll be shooting for his life. That's exactly what Albert Duraev did. He mentioned pre-fight that he was willing to stand and trade with Joaquin Buckley, that he felt like he was better striker too. Buckley laughed at that, literally started dying laughing in the press conference, and was like, y'all don't believe that, I don't believe that, none of us believe it. And it showed why Buckley felt that way. So whatever happened in those training sessions, Buckley was like, hey, you may feel like I was an easy fight, but I feel like I clearly have the stand-up advantage. And he did. Once it was evident that Duraev was going to be in big trouble when it came to a striking battle, he was shooting. The shot started getting sloppy. The few times he was able to get Buckley down, Buckley was able to get right back up and then just put the hands on him. The ending of the first round, the ending of the second round was nasty. Round 2, I think actually got stopped right in between the first and second. I got to go back and look at it. It says round 2, 5 minutes, so I want to say that means between the first and the second round. I just know that it was stopped between rounds. I'm not sure if it was the first or second, I want to say. Damn, I kind of want to say it was the second round. But anyway, it was stopped between rounds. He had a really bad cut on his eye, a swelling on his eye. His left eye, I believe, was completely swollen shut. He told the doctor he couldn't see, so obviously they're not going to let you go out there if you can't see. But just a really, really impressive performance for Joaquin Buckley. And I hope him all the best, man. I hope he does get those big fights. He's kind of growing on me. He really is. He's growing on me as a fighter, because he just seems like he's doing the right things. He seems like he's improving. And like I said, you're calling out dudes. I mean, what do you want from him? Like, what do you want him to do? Closed mouths don't get fed in the UFC, especially in the UFC. We know this. Ask Leon Edwards how his career has worked out for him. He has a title shot coming up, but golly, that dude has been old. And even now, it's like, you still hear Conor McGregor, you still hear Hamza. People are still like, does it have to be Leon? It's like, well, fuck, when's the last time this guy lost a fight? When you're just not saying the right things, when you're not entertaining, it's just tough to start trying to call your own shots. Co-main event, Tim Means, Kevin Holland. God, I'm so happy for the Trailblazers. This is his second fight at welterweight. He was fighting at 185 for a while, and a lot of people felt like it was a mistake, and I get that. He's fighting at 185 where he's always been so slender for that division. It's always been evident that he should be fighting at 170. He even talked about it himself, saying, I just wasn't treating myself as a professional. I liked not having to cut weight. Everybody's cutting weight, and I'm chilling. I just got to maintain. I'm good. I don't have to cut weight at 185 because I barely weigh 185. And it's like, that's great and all, but it was very clear that he should have been fighting at 170. Now, that could have been a mistake. Yes. His record in that division at 185, especially when he started moving up, shows that it was a mistake. Right? He lost to a few guys, wrestlers in particular, Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori. Those guys, Marvin Vettori just recently fought for a championship. Derek Brunson was one fight against Jared Cannonier away from fighting for a championship. So he was fighting the best of the best at 185. So even though it seemed like a mistake for him, and like, yeah, you should have always been a professional athlete and fought at 170 and cut the weight and done everything correctly and fought at 170, which seems to be your natural weight class, it also might have given him an advantage now that he's fighting at 170 against guys who aren't ranked, guys who are not contending for a championship anytime soon. He's fighting, 2 fights now against Cowboy Oliveira and now against Team Means, and he just looks good. He looks like that power that he carries at 170 is a real problem. Now, again, knocked out Joaquin Buckley at 185, knocked out a few guys at 185, so we knew the power was going to translate, especially when he was not, when he was barely a $185. We knew it was going to translate well for him, and it has. His speed still looks great at 170 compared to these guys. To be able to do what he did against Tim Means, beautiful fight. They were talking a lot in there, but he hits him with a big shot, wobbled him. Tim Means shot out of desperation because he was hurt. And then the one thing people forget about Kevin Holland is like, yeah, his takedown defense is still a bit shoddy. His takedown defense is still a problem. Even against Tim Means got in on a double pretty easily and got Kevin Holland down pretty easily. So it's like that takedown defense still needs a lot. It still needs a lot of improvement, especially against the guys. I mean, if we're talking about welterweight now, obviously his aspirations aren't to just kind of hang around and get a little bit better. Like he's talked about, he wants to be extremely active. He wants to try to rise to the top. So when we think about that division, we think about Hamzat, we think about Gilbert Burns, we think about Bilal Muhammad, we think about Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, obviously. We think about those guys and we're like, would Kevin Holland be able to keep them off of him? Would he be able to not get taken down by those guys? Right now, that doesn't show me that he can. But on the feet, man, his speed, that length, the power, it's all there for Kevin Holland. And he can beat all of those guys if it comes to just striking. I mean, I say that so quickly, but I think so. He could beat all those guys when it comes to just a striking battle. And he is just so fucking cool, man. All the things of, everyone's calling him Batman, and he's out here saving people and hunting down bad guys and chasing dudes that are trying to steal, break into cars. Fight literally the day before the fight, there's a dude that tries to steal some, I guess, perfumes or whatever it is from a store. He said that they were just hanging out outside of some place eating, and that he saw some dude run out of a store, sees the store owner run out behind him saying that he stole shit. So they just took off sprinting after him. He said he caught up to him, and the dude just kind of dropped the stuff and he was able to get it. I said he didn't get into any physical altercation with him, but he was able to retrieve the merchandise, give it back to the owner. I'm like, the dude is a damn superhero out here, man. Like, he just always, it's like he said, he's like, I don't know if I'm, in the right place at the wrong, wrong place, right, wrong time, or what it is. Like, I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing that I'm always around these things, but I'm never going to do nothing. So, it's a good thing for all the people that he's helped. I'll tell you that much. I'm sure the store owner feels like it was a good thing. I'm sure the people that, the owner of the guy's car that was trying to get broken into felt like it's a good thing that he was around. But a great performance. Like I said, Tim Means shoots for a takedown desperation. Kevin Holland, people forget, is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he actually does have really good jiu-jitsu. Does he have great wrestling defense? No. Does he show the desperation to get up off of his back when he gets taken down? No. Again, he kind of plays in his guard a little too much, goes for submissions when it's like sometimes you just need to get back to your feet. And sometimes part of it is he just doesn't have the ability. He just doesn't have that skill level. And the other part is just like he just plays in his guard too much. He just has a lot of confidence in jiu-jitsu. And he feels like that would be the best case scenario for him if he's on his back, is to catch them in something. But these high-level guys, especially when he was doing it with guys at 185, those dudes are, 200, 205 pounds on fight night. Like, that is tough to get them off of you, especially at that caliber where they're fucking black belts too. Like, they know what you're trying to do. But a phenomenal fight, phenomenal win for Kevin Holland. And then last but not least, Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. I'll circle back and hit some of these prelim fights too. But Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett, I mean, unbelievable fight. My opinion, Calvin Kattar, a little too much respect for Josh Emmett, but that's very easy for a dude that was, chilling on a couch watching the fight. But I felt like Calvin Kattar was a little too respectful of Josh Emmett. I felt like if he could have kept Josh Emmett on his back foot a little bit more, he would have gotten the decision victory. With that being said, it was a split decision victory in which I had Calvin Kattar 48-47, as did one judge. I personally had Calvin Kattar 48-47 in that fight. I know a lot of people that have 48-47 going Calvin Kattar's way. I saw some people saying he was robbed. That fight was just so close, man. It was just such a close fight. It was hard to tell, especially in a 5-round fight like that. It's a little bit tougher because they do have some rounds to fill out. But that's the point, that first round when you're filling it out like that, it's like, dude, that these rounds are gonna cost you. Josh Emmett, the hard thing with it, right? Like when it comes to rounds 1 and 2, it's tough because you don't know exactly how they're going. They were so tightly contested, you're not really sure. But it's tough to say Josh Emmett won the fight because when you go back, like when you just go back round for round, right? Round 1, round 2, super close, razor thin. I did not know who to give those 2 rounds to. But you go to rounds that were, I think, obviously decided for. I think Josh Emmett clearly won round 3. But I think Calvin Kattar clearly won rounds 4 and 5. So it's tough for the observers, tough for the spectator that's simply just watching this fight to see one guy clearly win 2 rounds, the other guy clearly win 1 round, and the guy that clearly won 1 ends up winning the fight, right? Because we're like, damn, those other 2 rounds, yeah, we don't know. We don't know how they went, but like, you only really got one. We only feel confident that you won 1 round in the entire fight. And you ended up getting the win, where this guy, we felt confident that he got 2 rounds in the bag. And he ends up losing. I think that's where it makes it tough for people, is to be like, damn, those 2 rounds. And again, that's on the fighters. They always say, just because it's a 5-round fight doesn't mean you can come out and give rounds away. Granted, definitely don't think Josh Emmett or Calvin Kattar were giving the first 2 rounds away. But for Calvin Kattar's, from his point of view, when you're in the 4th and 5th round and your striking totals increase by that much, not only just strikes thrown, but strikes landed, increased by that much, you were saving some in the gas. And when you lose a fight by split decision, I know that's going to go back, and Calvin Kattar's going to go back and look at it and say, if I would have just pushed it a little more early, if I would have gave a little bit more action in those first 2 rounds, maybe that could have swung the one judge, because all he needed was one of those 2 judges to give him one of the rounds that, again, were razor thin. But going back and watching it, I had Calvin Kattar. I want to say I gave Calvin the first, 4th, and 5th, and then Josh Emmett the 2nd and 3rd. God, I wish I could. Either way, I had those 2 rounds split. The first 2 rounds I had split, 1 for Kattar, 1 for Emmett. I had Emmett the 3rd, and then Kattar the 4th and 5th. So me personally, I had Calvin Kattar winning it. All over Twitter and stuff, I saw a lot of people had Calvin Kattar winning that fight as well. So it's tough, tough for him. Josh Emmett saying that, he feels like he's the best fighter in the division. What else are you supposed to say? I mean, the dude's not a scrub. He's tough. Anybody who could beat Calvin Kattar, even if it's by split decision, even if people feel like Calvin Kattar won, anybody that can beat him, you're a good fighter. So I don't know. Josh Emmett saying he should get the title fight next. He should fight the winner of Holloway and Volkanovski. I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, if let's say Yair goes out and beats Brian Ortega, I hate that fight's happening, by the way. I love Yair. I love Brian Ortega, but I've been rocking with T-City for a minute, man. I'm going to have to rock with him, too. It's a really tough fight. Yair is he's different, man. His striking is different. But if Ortega get him to the ground, Max Holloway got Yair to the ground and was able to hold him there for a little bit. If Ortega does it, Ortega has, I think, a better wrestling pedigree than Max. Definitely has better jiu-jitsu than Max. He could really threaten with submissions. You definitely don't want to be on the floor with Brian Ortega. So it's a very interesting matchup to me. But I wouldn't mind Josh Emmett fighting the winner of that fight, and then the winner of that fight getting the championship fight. You know what I mean? Like, it might hold up the division. We have to see what else is happening throughout. The one thing I hate so much is like Henry Cejudo, just constantly. It's like, dude, get up in there. It's not like we don't want it. It's not like we're not interested in that fight. It's talking about Henry Cejudo against either Max or Volk. That would be great. And I think he's put in the work, and he's had the type of pedigree. I mean, a 2-time division champion. I would have no issues at all with Volk with Cejudo jumping the line and getting a title fight over Josh Emmett or Yair or Ortega. I really wouldn't. And that could be one of those fights that kind of happens at the same time frame that like Josh Emmett fights the winner of Yair and Ortega. But we don't know. We have no idea how that's gonna go. But good on Josh Emmett. He's gonna move up in the rankings, and we'll see. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe the UFC does give him that title shot. I really do feel like he's probably gonna have to win one more to get a title shot. But like I said, what do I know? We've seen crazy, and we saw Korean Zombie get a title shot. Obviously, it was short notice. Like, that's why. But I mean, what happened for a reason. Like, Korean Zombie might not have been ready for that fight. Prelims, just to go over a couple. Definitely want to talk about Ricardo Ramos. I believe he's Brazilian. He could just be Ricardo Ramos, and I'm completely messing that up. But he had an insane spinning elbow knockouts continue to be the coolest shit you could ever see in the UFC. Spinning elbows or spinning like back kicks are nuts. Any spinning shit is crazy to see, and he destroyed Danny Chavez with a spinning elbow. Chavez had no clue where he was at. Literally gets hit with the elbow and is just staring sideways of the dude as he just gets 2 more shots to the temple. Unbelievable knockout. I'll have it here as well so you guys can see it, but unbelievable knockout for him. Crazy finish to that fight. Cody Stamann, Eddie Wineland, please retire. He took his gloves off. I think he means he's retiring now. I think 3 straight knockout losses for Eddie Wineland. It started with Sean O'Malley. Forgot who knocked him out or his last fight, and then obviously Cody Stamann. It just wasn't very competitive. Like, Cody Stamann just looks way faster, way stronger. Wineland just looked like he's just, he's a weathered fighter, man. He's been doing it for so long. His chin is just, I didn't think the first shot from Stamann was that crazy, but golly, and I mean, Stamann was a minus 580. Like, Wineland's a plus 440 going into the match. Like, hey, UFC, can we give him somebody else? A plus 440? Vegas was looking at this like, what are y'all thinking? What are y'all thinking in this fight? But if he's retiring, good for him. I hope he doesn't go to like PFL or some shit. Like, dude, he's been doing it for so long. I'm sure he can have a good life outside of fighting. At least that's what I hope for him. I always hope that these guys have good lives outside of fighting. You don't need to keep doing that. And then Phil Hawes, Darren Wynn. Very interesting matchup. Darren Wynn, training partner of, well, not training partner, obviously DC doesn't train anymore, but he's out of the same gym, out of AKA with Daniel Cormier, Khabib, and Islam, and all those guys. Phil Hawes had a little something to say with DC after that fight. Phil Hawes, phenomenal performance. In my opinion, they should have thrown in the towel. The corner should have stopped the fight for Darren Wynn. He was getting hurt bad. He was just kind of like those weeble wobbles, like the weeble wobbles, but they don't fall down. Like, that's what it felt like. The entire commentary throughout that fight was, how is he not going down? How is he not down? How is he not knocked out? How is he still standing up? When that's the commentary, stop the fight. Stop the fight. Stop the fight. And that's what it was. I even posted on Twitter the gif from Rocky where Apollo Creed gets killed and he's, throw the damn towel. Like, I had to post that because everybody had that feel where it's just like, dude, how much punishment are you guys going to let this guy take? I mean, he was just stumbling all over, shooting for takedowns that he wasn't close to getting. I mean, to his credit, like, he would throw back and land a couple shots, but he was on the wrong end of a beat down. And shout out Phil Hawes. I actually love Phil Hawes, man. I've always been a real big fan of Phil Hawes. Always up and down with that guy. He has really good finishes. I mean, like, he gets stopped and has really good finish and gets stopped. It's always like, damn, man, he's never. I always want him to get on a streak, and he just can't ever really put a streak together. But like I said, because of the connections, I guess, with Darren Wynn, I don't know what Phil Hawes heard. Maybe he heard something through the grapevine. I don't know, but he had a lot to say to DC. When DC came in for the post-fight interview, he was telling him, I know you picked this. I know you picked this fight. You thought it was going to be an easy fight. You picked the wrong dude. You picked the wrong guy. And DC was like, yo, I don't pick fights. Like, I don't pick the fights for our guys. Like, I'm not involved with that. The one thing that is strange that DC said, telling him he doesn't pick the fights, DC stood his ground, was like, be respectful. Don't talk to me that way. Like, chill out, be respectful. And Phil Hawes kind of backed down and was like, all right, cool. Like, DC's you don't want to get in those problems with it. You talking about a heavyweight champion. Hey, you fight a middleweight. This guy was a heavyweight champion. Right now, he's a super duper heavyweight champion. Right now that he's walking around, DC's got to be pushing 3 something. Gotta be. He's so damn round right now. Phil Hawes, you do not want that smoke with DC. So DC stood his ground, let him know. But the one interesting thing that DC said, he said, why? He said, do you know how many times we tried to say no to this fight? Why would we say yes to this fight? Look what just happened. Why would we want this fight? We tried to say no. And that's a head scratcher. I get that you want to be like, yo, I didn't choose you. We didn't pick you. I don't think you're an easy fight. Like, I get that you're like, dude, you got this all wrong. I had nothing to do with this fight coming into fruition and thinking that you're an easy fight for my boy. It's not what happened. Be respectful, chill out. That I completely understand. But for you to go on to say, like, look at what you just did to my boy. Why would we want this fight? We never, you know how many times we tried to say no to this fight? I'm like, oh, interesting. Interesting that, like, coming in, AKA knew that Win was going to get beat up in there, that they had no confidence in him. So it makes you wonder, like, how much confidence did Darren Win have in himself if his team's, if what DC's saying is true, which is, do you know how many times we tried to say no to this fight? It's like, shit, I wonder what his mindset was going into this fight. I wonder if he had that same mindset where he's like, I really don't want this one. I really don't want this one. Which if you really don't, how are you going to win? Roman Dolidze and Kyle Dawkins. Dolidze, fucking these guys' names. First round KO. Again, something in the water in Austin. It was insane. And then I want to give out some credit to Jeremiah Wells with an insane knockout as well. And then Natalia Silva, who won by decision, no knockout, but her performance was fucking sick. Like, her foot movement from a striking standpoint, poor girl Jasmine Jasuda Vicious had zero chance. From a striking standpoint, had zero chance. She just looked so slow, so sloppy, had no idea where this girl was, had no idea where the kicks were going to come from. Her kicks were nasty. It was leg kick, high kick, just mixing it up. And it seemed like every one she threw was just landing, or at least partially landing. Even when she got her hand up, it was still kind of wrap around. Natalia Silva was so freaking slick. Her takedown defense was insane. Jasmine was somebody who we felt like maybe she's going to have that takedown ability. You know, she was a favorite coming into the fight. I think predominantly because of her wrestling. We've seen her in the Contender Series and other times where her wrestling is such a big advantage for her. She could kind of take down, seems to be everyone. She had no chance. And she was by far the bigger girl in there. I mean, she looked a whole weight class ahead of Natalia Silva, but she had no prayer in this fight. It was a beatdown in every single round. Now, I don't think Silva did enough damage where it would have been some 10-8s, but it's like, yo, this girl didn't have a chance. Like, she didn't have a single chance to beat Natalia Silva. Silva looked fucking sick. I'm really excited to see her in the future. I don't know if Jasmine was just that terrible. I would like to say that Jasmine looked good and Silva was just she's just on a different level in terms of striking, and I can't really say that. I can say that Silva looked amazing, but Jasmine looked terrible. Like, when it comes from a striking standpoint, just her stance, and she's very hunched over and very slow, not cutting her off, just kind of chasing the whole time. I mean, she looked terrible. She looked bad. So I want to see what Silva does against somebody a little bit more higher caliber, but I really can't wait to see her against somebody else high caliber, because if this is what she's got, if what we saw is just like, yo, she could look that way against a lot of girls, she's going to be a problem at flyweight in the women's flyweight division. She looked so damn good. So shout out to her. That's the entire card. Went over everything. Like I said, insane finishes. If you have ESPN Plus, you can go and watch them. I think they're already they're already saved on ESPN Plus, just the clips themselves. You could watch individual fights or watch the entire thing. If you have UFC Fight Pass, I believe they should be on there pretty soon if they're not already on there, especially the prelims. But go back and watch these fights, man. The knockouts are sick. These knockouts are insane. Definitely watch the Adrian Yanez. Definitely watch the Joaquin Buckley, the Gregory Rodriguez, the Ricardo Ramos. All of those. Definitely go watch that. It was an insane fight. Super excited for the next fight night. Next pay-per-view coming up is going to be wild. July 2nd, I believe. My boy Sean O'Malley's on there. Izzy's, that's obviously, is that Izzy? Yeah, that's Izzy and Jared Cannonier. It's going to be insane. Can't wait for that. Obviously, we'll do a breakdown of next UFC fight night, which hopefully this comes up pretty soon. It is... yeah, Sarukian and Gamrot. That's going to be a really good fun. That's going to be a fun fight to watch. We'll cover that on Friday. We'll be back Wednesday against some NBA and some football drama going on Wednesday. And then, like I said, we'll jump into UFC Fight Night on Friday. So thank you guys as always. Another one in the books, another one to wrap. Love you guys. Stay safe. Like I said, happy Father's Day. Hopefully you guys had a really safe and really fun time for Father's Day. Everybody back in El Paso, I love you guys. Stay safe. See you guys on Wednesday. Peace.